Hello, I'm already on. Hello, everyone. Okay, almost lunchtime, this close. So I have the opportunity to sit here and also want to quickly echo Fred's comments about everybody being here. We did go back and forth quite a few times on what the attendance was going to look like. So yesterday was just a big social engagement love fest. It was just amazing. So, as we think through with HEDNA and talk about, for those of you who've been before, we usually have a session called Innovate, where we invite people from either startups or someone who has a new product who's been in the industry for a while, and really want to take an opportunity to kind of talk to some of the disruptors that have come into the market the last few years or so. So we really specifically wanted to look at three different segments in the industry, one being meta search, another being corporate, and then the last being payments. so I'd like to introduce the three panelists. I will start with Duncan here. Tell us a little bit about your company and where you're from.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. Duncan Hall. So I'm a senior product manager overseeing the entire kind of lodging hotel stack at TripActions. TripActions is a
Thank you.
is a cloud-based T&E platform backed by a first-class service section with travel agents. We service over 5,000 companies globally and manage over $4 billion in travel spend. Also backed by an expense platform with virtual cards and physical cards. So the future, both in the pocket as well as in the cloud.
Excellent. Barbara, can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yes, of course. So Uplift is a buy now, pay later provider. We're partnered with over 200 travel providers, including United Airlines, Caesars Entertainment, and Carnival Cruise Lines. Our solution is simple. So we empower consumers with the ability to book their travel now and pay for it over time in monthly installments. So we've seen a huge adoption with buy now, pay later, especially during the pandemic. So over 50% of US consumers have used a buy now, pay later solution, which is up 30% in the last year. And then lastly, for travel providers, we help them really with three key metrics. The first is increasing conversion. The second is driving average order value. And lastly is acquiring new customers.
Wonderful, thank you. And lastly, we have Archie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Archie from TripTease. My 7-year career in travel tech, this beautiful industry, has been spent at TripTease, of course. If you don't know what we do, we have a very vast and deep understanding of what web behaviors indicate a guest is going to book direct, as well as for every single booking engine shop across our 15,000 hotel partners, if that hotel is in parity or not, both on meta channels as well as with the major OTA partners. And ultimately, our business approach is how can we leverage that data to help hotels attract and convert more direct business through the e-commerce site. So that could be through paid media channels like Meta, or paid search or display, as well as personalization and content delivery throughout the website and booking engine.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think the real big question, after we've heard a little bit about the companies and their solutions, I think the big question is the why. So what is the reason that your founders got together and said, we see a gap in this industry and we want to solve for it? So, I think that that's the important thing here. Our industry tends to have a lot of Band-Aids, I kind of call them, instead of doing the deep surgery, as we just heard in the content working group, so content panel. So Archie, I'd love to know a little bit more about why TripTease kind of came about and what that real thing was you guys were looking to solve for.
Sure. So we started our business in 2015 is when we really had product market fit with the infamous price comparison tool, but that was not the end-all be-all product, of course. The opportunity that we saw was that there are just extremely fragmented and disjointed pieces of data sitting across so many valuable pieces of hotel tech, whether that's PMS, CRS, CMS, your agency, your BI tool, et cetera. And they don't speak well together, or for the most part. As we've heard on the last panel, everyone's trying to change this, and it's been a hot topic for many years. And so our why is ultimately how can TripTease scale, as well as understand how users are behaving throughout these multiple different touch points in the guest journey to drive revenue at a low cost of acquisition while simultaneously, improving the UX for each unique visitor.
Okay. And Duncan, I think the corporate space and the combination of your expense tool. Tell us a little bit what you guys saw as a gap in the corporate travel space that gave birth to Trip Actions.
Absolutely, and to build off of what Archie was saying, fragmentation is a huge issue. We all know this. We were talking about it yesterday in the connectivity roundtable. So fragmentation was the big issue with corporate travel, and what our two co-founders at Trip Actions really wanted to tackle. Coming from outside the industry, just being a corporate traveler, they just didn't like the booking tool. And so they started with that. But then as soon as they got into the industry, started getting into the weeds, they realized one of the biggest gaps was the issue that the booking tool is not really hooked up to the travel agency, actually servicing those bookings. And so that was the first gap that they looked to fill, to have one end-to-end solution for truly travel. And then with the addition of Liquid, actually right before the pandemic, our expense system, now it's truly one big tech stack to be able to solve every use case of the corporate traveler, which right now is not out there today, because one of the main pieces that was missing is the difference between actually making the booking and then servicing that booking.
I see, okay. I always find it interesting, a lot of times we hear from disruptors or that innovate, our founders were outside the industry. We hear that pretty often. So Barbara, I guess then, kind of to go to you in the buy now, pay later kind of model, how did that come to find the gap in the travel segment?
Right, that's a great question. So Uplift was founded by travel industry veterans for the travel industry, so we've got another one of those. And we actually got our start in vacation packages, and we saw immediate success there. We routinely represent 15% share of their business, which is really super powerful. I mean, partners are really surprised out of the gate what we can deliver, and that volume is largely incremental. So that's super exciting. We've also had success in the hotel space. So Atlantis Bahamas was an early adopter of Uplift. We also drive a significant volume for them. And over the summer, we rolled out on the hotel-only path of Vegas.com. And due to that success, we're actually available on all their product lines. Okay. So, yeah.
So, and that's kind of, one of the things I think is interesting is the entrance into airline, vacation package, and then kind of the hotel standalone. Is there any other kind of, have you heard any hesitation in the hotel-only space? I mean, you obviously have the statistics to say that it works. People buy furniture, cars, things on what we used to call layaway.
No, it's true. Like, the hesitation we get is, do people really want to pay for a hotel stay over time? That's the biggest one. And they do. They want, like you said, they want to pay for everything over time. And it's an exploding consumer trend that is here to stay.
All right, great. So then I guess we'll go back a little bit on more of the side with TripTease. When you look at the increased competition, when you look at all the meta search results, what is your approach to ensure that the brands have a low cost of acquisition?
Good question. So I guess it's no secret that Meta is constantly evolving, becoming more competitive, new entrants, OTAs, as well as, rapidly being iterated by Google and TripAdvisor, most notably with organic or free links via Google, and then Trip Plus, which has been iterated multiple times since its release. So our approach is to ultimately use data in a unique way that helps hotels be much more competitive and drive revenue at a low cost. So most importantly for this audience, I'm sure many of you have spent hours playing a little bit of whack-a-mole with parity issues on Meta. So we take a very unique approach to this, where Meta is a super price-sensitive driven channel. It's meant for price-sensitive users. And however, it's very difficult to change your approach to Meta leveraging parity data. And that was, I guess, maybe why I'm on this panel, is because we've tried to change that. And so what that means is not paying the same amount for a click when your hotel's direct price is being undercut by an OTA, as we know that that guest is far less likely to book direct, because parity is very important. Why you get so many emails from your OTA partners when you're breaking parity. So actually to put some data behind it, so the click-through rate on Meta is 163% lower when being undercut by an OTA, and then booking engine conversion rate is 30% lower when there's cheaper prices elsewhere. So you should be automating and changing your bids based on parity levels, and that's how TripTease is trying to ultimately combat the increased competition through just leveraging data in a new, unique way.
Great, okay. Quick reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go into the app and enter those in. We will get to several of those. So kind of looking at your unique models and the way that you've approached them, what dependencies do you have to drive success? So part of, again, I'll just kind of come back to when you said that you've got folks who were from outside the industry. A lot of times we have to explain, this is the way we do it. And we've got all these big ideas from, they say, wouldn't this be easier? Well, sure it would, but that's not how we do it. So what internal dependencies do you really have to continue to drive your business forward?
Absolutely, and funny thing you say that. It is making sure that the new entrants to the markets, to the new types of providers, the new types of suppliers are still working with the incumbents. I would love to work with all the new burgeoning startups that are trying to replace the GDS, and eventually we will. But with the size that we're working at now, we need to have the inventory, we need to have the breadth so that we can scale that. And so dependencies is making sure that the new entrants to the market work with both the old and the new, I guess.
So one might say that would be an external dependency, subtle. Is there anything you find within the organization where you're really taking a new approach in this combined system? So do you find that adoption internally is, there's not much, if you've got a new idea, a new product, a new suggestion, do you find that there's a willingness to try new things internally?
Absolutely, and I think what's interesting with TripActions is most sellers are only selling kind of one product or for one source. We're constantly having to put the different suppliers, different providers against each other, but still trying to make sure that we are articulating, kind of going back to the content discussion, making sure we're merchandising each of those providers correctly, and making sure that we're giving everyone fair space, a fair shot at enticing the buyer.
So not treating anyone like the middle child.
Exactly.
So Barbara, I guess to you then, kind of externally and internally, do you have any big dependencies on kind of moving the space forward?
Right, so externally, I would say it's getting everyone in this room signed up. That's a big one. And I would say internally, it's all about innovation. And also shifting the mindset from thinking of Uplift as a payment solution to really a powerful marketing tool and revenue management tool. And that's kind of what we're leaning into and what we're hoping to bring to the industry.
Okay, I'm going to pause on that for a second because I think it's interesting that you bring in the revenue management component. So when we look at the way, and I won't step on the next panel because I think it's, there's been this shift in how we look at commercials. It is much bigger than just a margin. We are looking at all the components, if it's marketing, if it's payment, if it's, there's just so many different components to how vendors and suppliers were working together 10, 15 years ago. So when you think about the revenue management component, is there something there that's kind of in this buy now, pay later model that has really resonated with revenue managers?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So with Uplift, you can do interest-free financing. So think about it as a revenue management tool to lean into instead of discounting. So you could target specific hotels, need dates, stay periods, or even inventory types like suites, and offer the promotional financing instead of lowering the rate, which is super powerful because it naturally targets the leisure traveler, right? It segments leisure from business, and it also is a way to differentiate your direct channels from your indirect channels, and something that doesn't need to be mirrored through your third parties.
Excellent. Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you. So Archie, I guess to you then, anything kind of internally, externally, big dependencies?
So internally, I mean, just as Barbara was speaking, I'm like, we could totally work together. And I guess my answer for externally,
Not the intent of the panel. No.
Yeah. My answer for externally, would ultimately be the willingness of other like really great hotel tech businesses, opening up their APIs and allowing TripTease to leverage their data as we would with them to ultimately, once again, drive a low cost of acquisition for guests, whether it's, through paid media channels or trying to shift share, as well as, and huge external dependency for us is also always going to be recruiting talent, just constant struggle.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's a good one. I hadn't really thought of that. Okay. So I think that as you talk about being disruptors in this space, we think historically, meta search has changed so dramatically. This idea of how we would buy a couch or a car coming into travel, and then the GDS component of how we've always kind of assumed corporate travel is booked. I'm going to ask you, what is the one question you're sick of having to answer? So if you could clear the air now, what does that look like, Duncan?
Sure. So I would say yes, TripActions is a startup growing fast, but we are mature. We are working with over 5,000 companies around the world, $4 billion in travel budget. We are industry leading in our employee adoption. So I think we're really trying to lead adoption and making sure that it is as easy as booking on Expedia or booking on the direct site to book a corporate trip, which has been a big frustration and another one of the reasons why our co-founders got into it originally.
Yeah, that's good, because I think that when you look at that startup, it comes with its own baggage. We all want to be innovative and start new things, but it's getting the people to kind of give you a try and give you a chance. So you're grown-ups now. Congratulations.
We're grown-ups.
And then, Barbara, to you.
I mentioned this earlier, but it is, the hesitation, will people use a buy now, pay later solution for a hotel stay? And it was actually our airline partners that kind of solidified this for us. So when we first started Uplift, we had a 500 minimum purchase requirement. And United Airlines came to us and said, hey, would you lower that minimum? And right now, it's as low as $100. And 40% of our volume is for trips between $100 and $500. So it truly will work at all price points. So it's pretty cool to see.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, you kind of think that would go the other way when you think about buying now, paying later. It's usually big ticket, but who's to say?
I mean, it really is across the spectrum. Yeah. So you can think of even the tranche, 500 to 1,000, is about 30%, and the rest is above.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Archie, what are you sick of having to answer?
I am sick of having to answer the question of why would I list OTA brands on my own booking engine with the price comparison tool. The short answer is that it increases conversion and confidence that Booking Direct is best, which all the major brands are consistently trying to convey, which is, I guess in tandem why metasearch has grown so much as well. Guests are price sensitive. They want to know that they're getting the best price after they pick which hotel they're going to stay at. Their next decision-making process is which channel, which is based upon price. So there is value in putting a mini meta search or a price comparison tool on the booking engine.
I'm hearing a lot about price. I'm also happy that none of you said you're sick of answering my questions. So thank you for that. Okay, so when you look at your entrance into the market and the way things are constantly shifting in this industry, it's not as simple as we used to say heads in beds. That concept has kind of gone away when a bed could be a hammock or a yurt or nothing I would personally stay in, but if it doesn't have a pillow, I'm not going. So when you look at the way the industry continues to evolve, what does success continue to look like for your company? And I'll start with you, Archie.
Sure. I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I think it's the openness and willingness of, that was the jam. Come to Nikki Beach at 7:30.
Good song.
So it would, not to beat a dead horse like I was saying, but to, willingness of other hotel tech businesses to continue to open up and partner with each other. Specifically, the PMSs have done a fantastic job over the last 2 or 3 years of sharing ARI inventory data with businesses like TripTease, and it would be fantastic to see CRSs to start to do the same, and then once again creating or incentivizing fantastic talent to come to this industry with an outside perspective to help us build and grow, fantastic new travel tech products.
Tell all your friends that hotel technology is the place to be.
Yeah.
Barbara, for you, what does the kind of continued success look like?
Right, the future is really the payment marketing that I mentioned. So, not just thinking about Uplift as a payment solution, but really a marketing tool and getting the word out about it as an option. And it really will drive purchase. It enables people to take the trips that they want to take, and also feel confident about money management, and also relieving financial stress. So it's exciting to see.
Okay. So then, earlier when Sebastian opened, he talked about corporate travel being down. We've seen this change. There was a term even before the pandemic about bleisure, taking trips where you're bringing along your family or friends or extending, and now work from home. That has changed. So for Trip Actions being specific to corporate travel, you've survived through a very interesting time. What does that continued success look like for you guys?
No, absolutely. And you touch on a lot of good points there. Continued success is making sure Trip Actions, but then also the industry is making sure we're solving the next problems, not just today's problems. In the roundtables, we're thinking about how do we merchandise, how do we make sure we get the right content places, but what does that look like next? What are those next amenities and things we need to merchandise around length of stay, alternative accommodation? Travel has changed. Business travel has changed. It's not going away. It is coming back. Trip Actions were at pre-COVID numbers. Yes, we've grown pretty drastically over COVID, but our booking numbers are back to pre-COVID levels, and so we're coming back. But we need to make sure that we're adapting and evolving and staying ahead of these new trends and these new changes.
So I guess I'm kind of thinking of an idea, and maybe I'm giving you some leverage to move forward or negotiate with some folks in the room, but has there been an idea, as we're talking about the kind of bleisure and the way that the length of stay, because you said that, has there been adoption to kind of say, here are my stay over dates? So like, example here, I stayed here, but I needed to come in early. Quite frankly, the rate was not accommodating, so I went and stayed somewhere else. So are hotels engaging in that kind of negotiate for the corporate but accommodate for the leisure?
That is something that we're looking to solve right now. Something that we're looking to do with split payments. With our ability to have virtual credit cards, you could have one hotel stay, but pay for it on our side, on a corporate card as well as a personal. So something that we're looking to do now.
This was not a setup, I promise.
This was not planned.
Even on my notes.
But no, that's exactly what we're trying to solve is that bleisure use case. And there's technology gaps, there's use case gaps, there's negotiations that we have to do. So we're only at the tip of the iceberg, but it's definitely something that bleisure is where we're going with it as we are rolling out a pure leisure product. Okay. And so, yeah, we're looking to combine the two for sure.
Love that. Okay. Archie, I'm going to ask you real quick. One of the questions here, I think that you've got a little bit more in the competitor space, I think you've approached things a little bit differently, and I know you've hit on this a couple times, but I do want to get your answer on like kind of what makes you different from some of the competitors in the space.
Sure. So always happy to be transparent about this. I guess if I could paint a picture, in short, we don't have one direct competitor. I mean, we offer a multitude of different products, of course. But what makes us different is that we participate in three very key areas. So one being we are able to collect parity data, and some of the competitors there would be, like a RateGain, OTA Insight, TravelClick, of course. And then we also have the ability to deliver content on the website and booking engine, which CMS agencies have the ability to do. And then we also have the ability to leverage that data in paid media channels. So depending on what product TripTease is trying to add value to a hotel with, the competitive advantages are different for each business. But ultimately, it's our ability to tie all three of those things together: the paid media, the content on the website and booking engine, and the parity, to power all of our products.
That's interesting, because that's also a very similar approach in the gap that you saw in the market to kind of say, how do we get, it's the same trips, they're the same components, it's expense, it's spending on a credit card, it's booking the travel. So I think that's interesting in both your solutions. It's a completely holistic approach in having one door to enter through. It's very interesting. So we have a popular question for you here, Barbara. It's got quite a few votes. So for Uplift, who bears the cost of the financing, the traveler or the hotel? Who bears the risk, and when does the hotel get paid?
Yes, so the traveler bears the cost of Uplift through the financing, so that's how we make our money. And the exception to that would be if a partner is running an interest-free promotion. And so in that case, the partner would bear the cost of the interest.
And partner would be a hotel or an airline?
Correct, yes, okay. Yes. The hotel, if they wanted to target specific inventory, need dates, they could run an interest-free promotion, and then they would bear the cost in that case. And that's actually one differentiator from our competitors, because often our competitors actually make their money through the interchange that they would charge the hotel company.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so we're going to do the crystal ball question, because it's always interesting to hear different perspectives. Hopefully not as complicated as some of the other panels, but if you could address or fix one issue in the industry overall, you have your magic wand, Harry Potter's by your side. What is that thing that you're going to fix in the industry? I'll start with you, Duncan.
It's really not actually directly associated with trip actions, but sustainability. Airlines have really taken a stab at and are really working hard to address the sustainability question with SAF, sustainable alternative fuels. And I mean, we mentioned Google before. Google just last week added the carbon output of taking specific flights. Hotels are behind in this. We have not addressed the sustainability issue as an industry where we can talk about it, have metrics against it, and guide travelers. As travel has changed, people are thinking more before they travel. And one of those things they're now thinking about is sustainability.
Interesting work for maybe the content group on how to capture that data. I like that. Archie?
I feel like I've answered this one a couple times already. So I will try to think something different. Crystal ball that I would fix, I guess. It would have to be improving or new channels being created, or improved cross-channel optimization from the paid media landscape of, there's paid search, there's web, there's SEO, meta, display, etc. Vendors working well together, if one manages meta, another manages paid search, working well together, sharing data, all for the value of the customer, and ultimately improving the guest experience.
So if I had to put in your crystal ball the question about consolidation of meta search, do you think that is anywhere on the horizon? And I know I'm literally asking you to look into that ball.
Of the meta search platforms themselves?
Yeah, with the results. So the endless number of results that come through when you go on to.
I think that's because, the barriers of entry into meta search are becoming lower. Google is now offering organic or free bookings on Meta, so that's an incentive for hoteliers, smaller than those, smaller brands than those here, to ask their CRS or their PMS to put them on Meta. I think the competition is going to continue to increase, and as you see, Google and TripAdvisor continue to change.
Okay, all right. So we'll end with you, Barbara. Is there anything kind of crystal ball?
I would say that leveraging buy now, pay later to eliminate discounting, it would be incredible, right? Simply giving customers the option to pay over time makes the stay more affordable. And you can drive demand that way instead of needing to discount.
Interesting. Awesome. We did great on time, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate if you guys haven't heard Nikki Beach's tonight, and it's going to be off the chain. So don't miss it. And thank you so much to all the panelists. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.